Look at a political map of the European continent in the year 2026. If you focus your attention on the volatile, historically explosive region of the Balkan Peninsula, you will see a geopolitical anomaly that defies every single law of modern international relations. You will see the Republic of Serbia. It is a completely landlocked nation. Draw a circle around its borders, and you will quickly realize the terrifying reality of its geography. Serbia is entirely, perfectly encircled by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. From Croatia and Hungary to the north, Romania and Bulgaria to the east, North Macedonia and Albania to the south, and Montenegro to the west. It is an island of fiercely independent neutrality swimming in a hostile ocean of NATO integration. According to standard military theory, a nation in this position should be subservient. It should be easily bullied, economically coerced, and militarily neutralized by the sheer, overwhelming gravitational pull of the alliance surrounding it. But if a NATO air commander sitting in Brussels looks at the electronic intelligence and radar tracking data emanating from within that Serbian island, they do not see a subservient, defenseless state. They see an absolute nightmare. If a hostile aircraft crosses into Serbian airspace, the radar that paints the target does not belong to a legacy Soviet system. It is a highly advanced, bleeding-edge Chinese HQ-22 phased array acquisition radar. If that aircraft tries to drop into the valleys to evade detection, it is immediately locked onto by the millimeter-wave radar of a Russian-built Pantsir one-point defense system. And if that aircraft tries to turn and run, it finds itself staring down the active electronically scanned array, ESA, radar of a French-built Dassault Rafale 4.5 generation fighter jet, armed with ramjet-powered Meteor air-to-air missiles capable of striking from well beyond visual range. If a hostile ground force attempts to stage an incursion, their staging areas are instantly bracketed by Israeli-designed PULS tactical ballistic missiles, fired from launchers built by Serbia's own domestic heavy industry. To the untrained eye, this looks like a chaotic, disjointed mess. The media mockingly calls it a Frankenstein arsenal. They assume that combining French, Russian, Chinese, and Israeli weapons is a logistical disaster born of diplomatic confusion. They are completely, fatally wrong. This is not confusion. This is a meticulously calculated, ruthlessly executed geopolitical masterstroke. Serbia has built a military that cannot be turned off by Washington, cannot be starved by Moscow, and cannot be ignored by Brussels. They have built the ultimate sovereign shield. Welcome to Doctrine of War. Today we are taking you inside the most brilliant, unsanctionable, and highly lethal military architecture on the European continent. Here is the thesis for this episode. In the 21st century, relying on a single superpower to supply your military hardware is a death sentence. If you buy exclusively from the West, you are a hostage to their foreign policy. If you buy exclusively from the East, you are a hostage to their industrial supply chains. True neutrality is not achieved through pacifism or diplomatic treaties. True neutrality is achieved only through overwhelming, diversified, and unpredictable lethality. If you are beginning to understand why the true balance of power is not decided by submitting to massive alliance blocs, but by the ruthless, cold-blooded mathematics of multi-vector procurement and sovereign engineering, hit that like button and subscribe to Doctrine of War. We strip away the Western-centric media narratives to bring you the cold, kinetic realities of how independent nations actually build, fight, and secure their survival. Your support ensures we can keep delivering this level of uncompromising strategic analysis. For over 2 decades, the Western media has portrayed Serbia as a relic of the 1990s, a state isolated by the legacy of the NATO bombing campaign of 1999, destined to remain a weak, impoverished proxy of the Russian Federation. That narrative is a dangerous illusion. Under President Aleksandar Vučić and the Serbian General Staff, Belgrade has executed a silent, aggressive military renaissance. They have transformed the Serbian armed forces into the undisputed heavyweight champion of the Balkans. We are going to break down the death of the single supplier, why Serbia's historical trauma forged the doctrine of the unsanctionable military. We are going to analyze the Rafale pivot, the massive €2.7 billion acquisition of French aerospace dominance, and why it is a strategic checkmate. We will explore the Eastern Shield, the covert delivery of Chinese long-range surface-to-air missiles right into NATO's backyard. And finally, we will look at the hybrid kill web, the staggering engineering triumph of making these disparate weapons talk to each other, creating an impenetrable fortress in the heart of Europe. Let us begin by looking at the trap that destroys most developing militaries, and how the Serbian state brilliantly engineered its way out of it. The client-state trap. To understand the genius of the Serbian procurement strategy, you must first understand the fatal flaw of the modern military-industrial complex. It is known as the client-state trap. When a middle power decides to modernize its military, the easiest, most heavily subsidized route is to align completely with a global superpower. A nation like Romania or Poland aligns with the United States. They buy F-16 or F-35 fighter jets, Patriot missile batteries and HIMARS rocket artillery. On paper they acquire world-class capabilities. But there is a massive hidden cost: absolute subservience. Modern Western weapon systems are deeply embedded with international traffic in arms regulations (ITAR) and end-user agreements. The United States retains the ultimate kill switch over how, when, and where those weapons can be used. Furthermore, modern aircraft and air defense systems require a continuous, unbroken pipeline of proprietary software updates, encrypted GPS codes, and highly specialized spare parts. If the purchasing nation ever enacts a foreign policy that displeases Washington, D.C., that umbilical cord is violently severed. We saw this with Turkey, a NATO member, which was instantly ejected from the F-35 program and starved of modernization upgrades simply for purchasing a Russian radar system. We see it with nations operating American hardware who are suddenly grounded because they lack the diplomatic favor to secure spare parts. Conversely, relying entirely on the Russian Federation is equally perilous. Nations that built their entire order of battle around Soviet and Russian hardware are now watching in horror as the Russian military-industrial complex is entirely consumed by the war in Ukraine. Spare parts for Su-30 fighters and S-300 batteries have dried up. The Russian supply chain is focused purely on its own domestic survival, leaving its export clients starving for munitions. Serbia looked at this binary choice, subservience to the West or starvation from the East, and recognized it as a false dichotomy. The trauma of the 1999 NATO bombing campaign is permanently seared into the institutional DNA of the Serbian armed forces. For 78 days, Serbia fought entirely alone against the combined might of the world's most powerful alliance. They learned the brutal, unforgiving lesson that no foreign power will ever prioritize Serbian survival over its own geopolitical interests. The Serbian General Staff concluded that true sovereignty is impossible if another nation holds the keys to your armory. The Sovereign Shield Doctrine. This realization birthed the Sovereign Shield Doctrine. It is a philosophy of extreme, aggressive diversification. It is the deliberate, calculated strategy of playing the superpowers against each other. Serbia recognized that its geographic position in the center of the Balkans is incredibly valuable real estate. Both the East and the West desperately want influence in Belgrade. Serbia decided to weaponize that desire. Instead of bending the knee to NATO, Serbia told Paris, Washington, Moscow, and Beijing, "We have cash and we will buy from whoever offers the best technology with the fewest political strings attached." The result is the intentional construction of a multi-vector arsenal. It is designed so that if any single geopolitical bloc attempts to blackmail, sanction, or embargo the Republic of Serbia, the Serbian military will not suffer a catastrophic collapse in combat effectiveness. If the European Union threatens economic sanctions over Serbia's refusal to recognize the secession of its southern province of Kosovo, the Serbian military is not paralyzed. Its Chinese HQ-22 air defense network still operates flawlessly. If the Russian Federation cannot deliver spare parts for Serbia's fleet of modernized T-72 MS tanks or Mi-35 attack helicopters, the Serbian Air Force still dominates the skies using its newly acquired French fighter jets. By diversifying its supply chains across three completely different, fiercely competitive global power centers, Serbia ensures that a complete embargo is mathematically and diplomatically impossible. The West will not coordinate an embargo with China, and China will not coordinate an embargo with the West. Serbia has engineered a scenario where it is literally immune to the very weapon, international isolation, that NATO relies upon to break non-compliant states. It is a masterclass in strategic autonomy, turning the country into an unsanctionable fortress. The €2.7 billion masterstroke. If the Sovereign Shield Doctrine is the theory, the acquisition of the Dassault Rafale is the devastating, kinetic proof of concept. For decades, the pride of the Serbian Air Force and Air Defense, RVIPVO, was its fleet of Russian-built MiG-29 Fulcrums. These twin-engine fighters were the iconic symbol of Eastern Bloc aviation. Serbia meticulously maintained and upgraded these jets, ensuring they remained a potent deterrent in the region. But the Serbian General Staff understood the limits of legacy architecture. To truly overmatch any potential adversary in the Balkans, they needed to leap into the 21st century. They needed a 4.5 generation, omni-role apex predator. When the news broke in August 2024, during a visit by French President Emmanuel Macron to Belgrade, that Serbia had officially signed a contract to purchase 12 brand-new Dassault Rafale fighter jets. The geopolitical shockwave was immense. Valued at a staggering 2.7 billion euros, roughly $3 billion, this was the largest, most expensive single military procurement in the history of the modern Serbian state. Western analysts were stunned. Why would a fiercely independent nation with deep historical ties to Moscow buy the premier fighter jet of a core NATO power? The mainstream media immediately spun the narrative, claiming that Serbia was turning its back on Russia and submitting to Europe. This narrative fundamentally misunderstands the brilliance of President Aleksandar Vučić's grand strategy. Buying the Rafale is not an act of submission, it is a geopolitical weapon. By executing a 2.7 billion euro transaction with France, Serbia inextricably tied the economic interests of the French aerospace sector, a massive source of pride and revenue for Paris, directly to the stability of the Serbian state. President Macron returned to Paris having secured a massive win for French industry. In exchange, Serbia purchased highly potent diplomatic cover within the halls of the European Union. If bureaucrats in Brussels or politicians in Berlin attempt to push punishing economic or diplomatic sanctions against Serbia regarding its stance on Kosovo or its refusal to align with Western foreign policy, they will now face fierce, quiet resistance from Paris. France will not jeopardize a 2.7 billion euro defense relationship. Serbia bought the jet, but it also bought a veto inside the European Union, integrating the apex predator. But beyond the diplomatic genius of the deal, the sheer raw kinetic power of the Dassault Rafale fundamentally alters the balance of power in the Balkans. The Rafale is an undisputed apex predator. It is a twin-engine, delta-wing, canard-equipped omni-role fighter. It is designed to execute air superiority, interdiction, aerial reconnaissance, and deep ground strike missions simultaneously within the same sortie. The true terror of the Rafale lies in its avionics and its weaponry. It is equipped with the RBE-2 Active Electronically Scanned Array (ASA) radar, granting Serbian pilots unparalleled situational awareness, the ability to track dozens of targets simultaneously, and the power to burn through heavy enemy electronic jamming. This radar is paired with the Spectra electronic warfare suite, widely considered one of the most advanced, highly classified survival systems on the planet. Spectra acts as a digital shield, identifying, jamming, and spoofing incoming radar-guided missiles, giving the Rafale a terrifying level of survivability in highly contested airspace. But the true prize is the capability to carry the Meteor Beyond Visual Range Air-to-Air Missile, BVRAM. Powered by a throttleable ramjet engine, the Meteor possesses an engagement range well in excess of 150 kilometers and maintains its hypersonic speed and maneuverability all the way to the target. It is the most lethal air-to-air missile in the world. When these 12 Rafales enter service with the Serbian Air Force, the airspace over the Balkans is permanently locked down. No neighboring nation, not Croatia with its older Rafales, not Romania, and certainly not the lightly armed security forces in Pristina, can challenge Serbian air supremacy. A flight of Serbian Rafales can take off from Batajnica Air Base and establish total, uncontested dominance over the entire region in a matter of minutes. They provide the ultimate Western sword. It is an offensive and defensive capability so profound that it mathematically ensures that any localized conflict in the region would be decided entirely on Belgrade's terms. Part 3, the Eastern Shield, Chinese and Russian Iron. The HQ-22 Fortress. While the French Rafales provide the sword, the survival of the Serbian state ultimately rests on the impenetrability of its shield. The trauma of 1999 taught the Serbian military that air defense is the absolute, non-negotiable prerequisite for national existence. To build this shield, Serbia looked east, and they executed one of the most daring, highly provocative logistical operations of the decade. In April 2022, the skies over Eastern Europe witnessed a bizarre and unprecedented event. A formation of 6 massive 4-engine Y-20 strategic airlift transport planes belonging to the Chinese People's Liberation Army Air Force, PLAF, flew in a tight corridor, traversing the airspace of multiple NATO countries, before landing at Nikola Tesla Airport in Belgrade. This was not a diplomatic visit. It was a rapid, strategic weapons delivery. Inside the cargo holds of those Chinese behemoths was the FK-3 surface-to-air missile system, the export variant of the highly advanced Chinese HQ-22. The deployment of the FK-3 to Serbia sent shockwaves through NATO headquarters. This is a top-tier long-range area defense system. It represents the absolute bleeding edge of Chinese aerospace engineering. The FK-3 utilizes a highly sophisticated H-200 phased array radar, capable of tracking over 100 targets simultaneously and guiding multiple missiles to engage multiple threats at once. The missiles themselves are terrifying. They possess an operational range of roughly 100 kilometers, capable of intercepting fast-moving fighter jets, cruise missiles, and unmanned aerial vehicles at altitudes ranging from 50 meters up to 27 kilometers in the stratosphere. By purchasing the FK-3, Serbia effectively erected a massive anti-access/area denial (A2/AD) bubble sitting right in the exact geographic center of the NATO map. If you draw a 100-kilometer threat ring around the FK-3 batteries stationed in Serbia, that dome covers the entirety of Serbian airspace and reaches deep into the airspace of neighboring countries. It is a massive, invisible wall. The strategic brilliance of buying Chinese instead of Russian long-range air defense is profound. By 2022, acquiring the Russian S-400 would have triggered immediate, crippling American sanctions under COTSA, countering America's adversaries through Sanctions Act. The Chinese FK-3 bypasses this specific American legal tripwire while delivering comparable, state-of-the-art radar and missile kinematics. It proves that Serbia will aggressively exploit the gaps in Western sanctions architecture to secure its own survival. The Russian armor backbone. However, an air defense umbrella is useless if the ground beneath it cannot be held. In the realm of brutal, mechanized land warfare, Serbia maintains its historic, unbreakable ties to Russian heavy industry. While the West obsessed over light, wheeled vehicles during the counterinsurgency era, Serbia never abandoned the necessity of heavy, tracked armor. The Serbian army operates one of the most formidable armored forces in Europe, anchored by hundreds of M84 main battle tanks, a highly capable Yugoslav derivative of the T-72. But the true edge comes from recent Russian upgrades. Before the war in Ukraine severed supply lines, Serbia successfully secured the delivery of upgraded T-72MS White Eagle main battle tanks and BRDM-2MS armored reconnaissance vehicles from the Russian Federation. These tanks are not Soviet relics. The T-72MS features a completely modernized suite of third-generation thermal optics, panoramic commander sights, and advanced fire control computers, allowing it to engage targets with devastating precision at night and through heavy smoke. This Russian iron is supported by a fleet of Mi-35M Hind attack helicopters, heavily armored, flying tanks affectionately known as the Crocodiles. Armed with Attica anti-tank guided missiles and 23mm twin-barrel cannons, the Mi-35MS provide the Serbian army with a devastating close air support capability that can obliterate enemy armored thrusts in the rugged, mountainous terrain of the Balkans. By layering the cutting-edge Chinese FK-3 radar umbrella over the brutal, kinetic mass of Russian upgraded heavy armor, Serbia creates an indigestible meat grinder. It is an eastern shield so dense and so heavily armed that any localized ground offensive against Serbian territory would result in immediate, catastrophic annihilation for the aggressor. To a military logistics officer, this sounds like a chaotic, unworkable nightmare. In modern warfare, the platform that shoots the weapon relies entirely on the platform that sees the target. You need a kill web. You need the radar on the ground to instantly and securely transmit targeting data to the fighter jet in the sky. But Western systems are designed to operate on NATO standard data links, like Link 16. Chinese systems operate on highly classified, proprietary PLA data links. Russian systems operate on their own distinct frequencies. They are intentionally designed not to talk to each other. The Western defense establishment assumed that Serbia's Frankenstein arsenal would be completely disjointed. They assumed that a French Rafale would never be able to share a targeting picture with a Chinese HQ-22 battery. They underestimated the sheer, brilliant engineering capability of the Serbian defense industrial base. Serbia possesses a massive, highly advanced domestic arms industry, spearheaded by the state-owned enterprise Yugoimport SDPR, alongside world-class research institutes like the Military Technical Institute (VTI) in Belgrade. These Serbian engineers did not accept the limitation of incompatible foreign hardware. They built their own bridge. The Serbian military has aggressively developed and deployed completely sovereign domestic command and control (C2) architectures. They have designed bespoke, highly encrypted data gateways that act as universal translators. These sovereign digital networks take the proprietary radar data from the Chinese batteries, fuse it with the telemetry from the Russian attack helicopters, and push it seamlessly to the Western-built aircraft and domestic air defense systems, like the Pacers. This is the ultimate triumph of the sovereign shield. Serbia does not rely on a foreign power to manage its network. They own the source code. They control the servers. They built a localized, unjammable kill web that seamlessly knits together the most advanced weaponry from 3 competing global empires into a single, cohesive, and terrifyingly efficient Serbian nervous system. The PULS and the unsanctionable superpower. Conclusion. The final piece of this hybrid puzzle is the integration of deep, precision strike capabilities. Serbia recognized that artillery is the god of war, and their domestic industry reflects this. They produced the Nora B-52 155mm self-propelled howitzer, an incredibly successful, highly automated artillery system that has been exported globally. But to secure absolute regional overmatch, Serbia requires tactical ballistic missiles. To achieve this, they executed yet another multi-vector maneuver, finalizing deals to acquire the Israeli PULS, Precise and Universal Launching System, multiple rocket launcher. The PULS system is a devastating piece of hardware. It is agnostic, capable of firing a wide variety of rockets, including the Predator Hawk tactical ballistic missile, which boasts a range of 300 kilometers and pinpoint accuracy. When you place the Israeli PULS system inside the borders of Serbia, you place the entire military infrastructure of any potential regional adversary under permanent, immediate threat of precision annihilation. Let us look at the final, unified picture of the Serbian armed forces in 2026. It is a military that patrols its skies with French Rafales. It protects its airspace with Chinese Fk-3 radars and Russian Panzer missiles. It pounds the ground with domestic Nora howitzers and Israeli ballistic missiles. It is the Frankenstein arsenal. And it is absolutely glorious. The mainstream media mocks it because they do not understand it. They do not understand that by building this hybrid beast, Serbia has achieved something that no other nation in Europe has managed to accomplish. They have achieved true, absolute strategic autonomy. If Washington cuts them off, the Chinese missiles still fly. If Brussels threatens sanctions, the Israeli artillery still fires. If Moscow collapses, the French jets still dominate the sky. Serbia has refused to be a pawn in the great game of superpower competition. Instead, they forced the superpowers to compete for the privilege of arming Belgrade. They turned their geographic isolation into a bidding war. In a world where nations are surrendering their sovereignty to massive, bureaucratic military alliances, the Republic of Serbia stands alone as an untouchable fortress. They are the undisputed heavyweight champion of the Balkans. They have built the ultimate unsanctionable military, proving to the world that neutrality is not a weakness, it is the deadliest weapon of all. Thanks for watching Doctrine of War. Do you believe that integrating French, Chinese, Russian, and Israeli weapons into a single network is an engineering masterpiece, or a logistical disaster waiting to happen in a real war? Let us know your tactical assessment in the comments below. Stay sharp, stay sovereign, and we'll see you in the next one.